The stone city of Machu Picchu is one of the most fascinating archaeological sites on the planet.
In the Andes, there are walls that even today leave engineers speechless. Because the stones there aren't just large, they seem impossible. These bus-sized megaliths are joined as if an invisible machine had cut and fitted them. No cement, no tool marks, no gaps, yet a perfect lock. A joint so tight that in some places, it's said, not even a hair can pass through. The real question is, how did this happen? While we live in an age of cranes, lasers, and massive tools, and we still pause to see such perfection. And just imagine, centuries ago, when there was no steel, no wheels, no written language, how were these massive stones cut, lifted, and locked with such precision? The most astonishing thing is that experts have measured these places, created maps, and written theories for centuries, if not years. Yet the clear answer still eludes us. Sometimes it's said it was just hard work. Sometimes it's said it was coincidence. But always, something doesn't fit. And now, the story takes a real turn. Because new scientific discoveries, new scanning, new mapping, and new research have come to light, surprising experts. And they're even more strange and surreal than anyone imagined. In today's video, we won't just look at ruins. We'll explore 3 questions that should be locked in your mind. How did this happen? Who did it? And what is science really showing now? And I promise you, as we progress, and you'll realize this story isn't just about stones, it's also a test of our own understanding. So stay tuned until the end, because a clue will emerge that could turn the entire timeline upside down. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel to be the first to see more such videos. And now, tell me, are you ready to be amazed? When we think of the Andes, most people think of a beautiful mountainous region, nested among the clouds, lush and mysterious. But to be honest, this place isn't just famous for its natural beauty. It holds something that leaves even modern engineers speechless. This region, stretching between Peru and Bolivia, especially the Sacred Valley, isn't just a historical site. It's a zone that challenges human understanding. You've probably heard of Machu Picchu, but there's another place nearby, Sacsayhuaman, which, while seemingly ruinous, actually resembles an ancient engineering lab. The walls here aren't built like typical stone buildings. They're not just lines of simple bricks. Each stone is a unique shape, yet they're all so precisely assembled that it seems as if someone created the entire design on a computer and then assembled it. The only difference is, all of this was built in an era when there were no computers, no steel tools, no machines. At first glance, you might think these are just the remains of an old fort or temple. But as you look closer, you realize these aren't just ruins, they're living examples of precision engineering, meaning these stones weren't simply placed, they were fitted. And fitted so precisely that even today, if an engineer were to do the same thing, he would find it nearly impossible without machines. This is why these sites in the Sacred Valley have become more of an engineering mystery than a historical one. Now let's talk about the actual size of these stones, because this is where the story gets even more interesting. The stones used here aren't just small. These are blocks as large as buses. Some weigh between 50 and 100 tons, and some even reach 300 tons. Now just imagine, even today, when we have massive cranes, hydraulic lifters, and advanced transport systems, lifting and precisely placing such massive stones remains a massive project. Construction companies plan for months, order special equipment, and deploy entire teams. But in these Andean mountains, all this was done without modern conveniences. Back then, there was no steel, no wheels, and no heavy machinery. Yet, These stones were not only brought here, but were also placed with such precision that it's difficult to find any gaps between them. In some places, it's said that the joints between these stones are so tight that not even a hair can fit between them. This may sound exaggerated, but when you actually see photos of these walls or see them in person, you realize this isn't a story. It's reality. Today, if an engineer were asked to lift a 100-ton stone and fit it into place precisely, without cement, without metal tools, and without machines, he would initially ask, is this a joke or an experiment? And if he were to actually do it, he might consider it impossible. But this very feat was performed here centuries ago, and that too repeatedly, relentlessly, and with such precision that the entire wall appears perfectly balanced and strong. Now the story takes us even higher, to Ollantaytambo. This isn't just any old ruin, but a fortress and temple complex built at an altitude of approximately 9,200 feet above sea level. That's an altitude where even today, working isn't easy, and everything poses a challenge in itself. But the real wonder begins when you look at the stones placed here. These aren't just small stones that people can lift together. These are massive monoliths, so large that even modern engineers admit they would be difficult to lift without modern cranes. And it's not just about lifting them. It also involves transporting them, hauling them up steep paths, and then fitting them into place precisely. Imagine, at that time, there were no wheels, no steel tools, no written language to record plans. Yet somehow, these massive stones were transported from the quarries below and brought up the rugged mountain paths. This task would have been difficult even on a straight road, but here, the slopes, rocky terrain, and altitude, everything stood in the way. When people hear the name Machu Picchu, but the first thing that comes to mind is its beauty, a tranquil town nestled among green hills. But the truth is that Machu Picchu isn't just beautiful. It's a kind of engineered survival. Living where it's built is inherently risky. The city rests on a narrow mountain ridge, a place where the slightest disturbance could cause a landslide or earthquake to wipe everything out. Yet, the city has stood for centuries. And this isn't just due to luck, but a highly thoughtful construction. And it wasn't just walls, but an entire system. The first thing that catches the eye are its terraces, the terraced fields that resemble terraces, which weren't just for farming. They held soil, managed water flow, and prevented land from eroding. This was a kind of protective shield that kept the entire city stable. In addition, a very smart drainage network was built at Machu Picchu. To ensure rainwater flowed directly downhill, pathways were left between the stones that are invisible, yet continue to function. Water doesn't accumulate, the soil doesn't become heavy, and the slopes remain protected. This clearly shows that this city was built not just for today, but for long-term sustainability. And most interestingly, the hidden water system still functions today. Even centuries later, water flows exactly as designed. If you look closely at these sites, the biggest question isn't just how it was built, but also what it was made of. Because the stone used here isn't ordinary clay or soft limestone that can be easily cut. These structures mostly used extremely hard stones, like diorite and andesite, stones whose hardness on the Mohs scale is considered just below diamond. So strong that shaping them is considered a difficult task even today. Still, the work on these stones is astonishing. In many places, their edges are so soft and curved that it appears as if they were not cut, but rather molded. Some joints appear as if the stones were once soft and then solidified. This impression is evident simply by looking at them, because this work does not appear to have been carved with a rough chisel. This is where things get more complicated. It is generally believed that the artisans of that time had bronze or copper tools. But the truth is that these tools are not considered effective on hard rocks, like diorite or andesite. The difference is similar to trying to cut iron with a plastic spoon today. The question then arises, if the stones were so hard and the tools so simple, how were such clean curves and precise angles formed? Many joints are so precise that they don't look like natural wear and tear, but rather the result of a planned process. The biggest headache wasn't just cutting the stone, but getting it to the right place. And this is where the ghost of logistics enters the story. And because the stones used for Sacsayhuaman weren't quarried from nearby land, their quarries were located several kilometers away. This meant first extracting them, then bringing such heavy blocks to such a height. A huge task in itself. Today, if we were to do this, we use large trucks, cranes, and laser measuring machines. Even then, engineers admit it wouldn't be easy. But considering that time, the situation seems even more challenging. There were deep ravines, steep slopes, and nowhere was there a flat road. The route was such that even today, traversing it would be challenging. This is where the real puzzlement begins. There's no evidence of wheels to transport these stones, nor of animals capable of carrying such weight. There's also no record of any sophisticated lifting machinery or structure. There's no sign of large ramps or permanent paths being built to pull them. This means these massive stones were somehow transported up these difficult paths, and with such precision that they could later be fitted into place. To understand the true strength of these walls, they must be tested over time. And in a place like Peru, there's no better test. This region sits on an active fault line, where earthquakes are not a rare occurrence, but a frequent reality. The ground can shake at any time, and many times in history, entire cities have been razed, buildings destroyed, and new structures reduced to rubble. But a strange difference appears in this very story. When the Spanish arrived, they built sturdy colonial buildings, churches, homes, and government structures in their own style. These were built using the modern techniques of the time, using European masonry methods. But when earthquakes struck, many of these structures collapsed. So now consider the older megalithic stones from that era, like the walls of Sacsayhuaman. These walls not only stood, but sometimes swayed slightly with the tremors, and then returned to their original position. It seems as if they were built to adapt to the shifting ground. The difference is clear here. What was newer collapsed. What was much older survived. And this cannot be mere coincidence. For if a structure can withstand repeated earthquakes, it means there must have been some understanding, some planning and some design involved. So, it's easy to assume it was all a matter of fate. But when the same results are seen again and again, new structures crumbling while old megalithic stones endure, then it goes beyond luck. If all this were confined to Sacsayhuaman, Ollantaytambo, or Machu Picchu, it might have been dismissed as an isolated miracle. But as you delve deeper into the Andes, you begin to realize that this story isn't just about 3 places. It spans the entire region. Whether it's Pisac, Taipan, or dozens of other sites like More, each one bears some resemblance to previously observed structures. The same exact stones, the same height of construction, and the way the stones are carved into strange yet eerily fitting shapes. It all comes together as if a single vision or a single style has touched these places. Gradually, it becomes clear that these are not isolated miracles, that is, not isolated achievements in different places. Rather, it resembles a systematic pattern, as if someone used the same understanding and methods across the entire region. Each site is unique, but the similarities between them are hard to ignore. Such complex construction at such a height, the consistent stonework, and their durability, all of this doesn't seem like a coincidence. Rather, it seems like an architectural fingerprint, an identity that has been replicated in different locations. That's why many believe that these structures reflect not just hard work or simple craftsmanship, but a clear imprint of intelligence. Whether it's lost knowledge or highly advanced understanding for the time, this pattern leads us to believe that the story may be much bigger than we imagined. What we've seen so far has been a mystery beyond the naked eye. But when it comes to numbers, the story becomes even more complex. It's not just large stones. There are figures that defy our understanding. And the stones used in many locations are believed to weigh between 50 and 120 tons. And in some cases, they've been estimated to exceed 200 tons. That is, a block that would be difficult to lift even today. It was not only cut, but also brought from miles away. And this is where the question deepens. There is no evidence of wheels to transport these stones, nor of animals capable of carrying such a weight. And there is no trace of any major infrastructure, such as permanent ramps or paths, which means how the stones arrived is still unclear. But the story doesn't end there. The real astonishing thing lies in the method of joining them. This is called polygonal masonry, where the stones are not square or straight, but are carved with many corners and strange shapes so that they can lock into each other. At Sacsayhuaman, some stones are also found that are connected not just to one or two, but to several other blocks. In some cases, one stone fits with 12 surrounding blocks. It doesn't look like a wall, but like a 3D puzzle where each part supports the other. This kind of design isn't just for looks. It strengthens the structure, helping it to withstand sway. When you combine all these factors, such a heavy weight, such a distance, no wheels, no animals, no major infrastructure, it's natural to raise questions. Was it just hard work? Or was there a plan behind it? One that remains undeciphered even today? Tool mystery. Cuts as if made by a machine. Now, if we examine these stones a little more closely, like an investigator would examine evidence, a new story begins to emerge. It's generally believed that people at that time had bronze or copper tools, ordinary metal tools, suitable for working wood or soft stone. But the situation is different here, because the stones used, like andesite and diorite, are much harder than these. And then, when you look at the cuts, things get even more complicated. Some stones show long, smooth cuts, so straight and uniform they appear to have been made with a circular saw. Many edges meet at almost perfect 90-degree angles, as if they were machine-milled. The famous 12-angled stone of Cusco is a prime example. This stone fits so precisely with the surrounding blocks that it appears as if it were cast in a specific mold. People believe that the stone may have been softened and shaped at some point, much like clay is molded. But the problem is that softening andesite or diorite requires very high temperatures or intense chemical processes, and there's no evidence of such industrial means. At Ollantaytambo, some stones also bear deep circular marks that resemble drill holes. At Sacsayhuaman, scoop-like marks, uniform, symmetrical, and clear, are found, which differ from rough marks made by ordinary hand tools. And furthermore, it wasn't just about cutting. The drainage channels, the alignment of slopes, and the precise balance of terraces all indicate that the work wasn't limited to simply carving the stone. Machu Picchu's hidden water system still functions, indicating that the plan was carefully planned. Given all this, the question remains, was this simply done with simple tools? Or was something more than just a tool? What happened? Something we still haven't been able to understand. And now the story reaches a turning point where the biggest question arises. Who built them? These structures are generally associated with the Inca civilization, but when ancient historical records were examined, an interesting fact emerged. When the Spanish arrived in the 16th century and saw these massive stone walls, they too were astonished. They asked the Incas, "So how did you build all this?" The answer was simple. They predate us. The Incas themselves did not claim to have built these megalithic structures. From here, the story becomes even more interesting. In many places, layered architecture is visible, meaning there are Inca-era structures above or around, temples or walls made of smaller stones. But beneath them, or at the base, are much larger and more precise stones. It seems as if the Incas built their work on a pre-existing foundation. Now the question arises, so what is the age of these massive stones? Science helps here, but in a slightly different way. Direct dating of stone is difficult because it contains no measurable organic matter. Therefore, researchers estimate the age of the sites from organic remains, such as wood, coal, or bones, found around them. When these organic samples were examined, in some cases they were found to predate the Inca period by thousands of years. And this means that the foundations near which these samples were found likely point to activities that predated the Inca civilization. More broadly, signs of human activity in the Andes region are believed to date back 4,000 to 5,000 years, or even more. This doesn't definitively tell who built these structures, but it suggests a long and complex history. This is where the story goes beyond just the Inca civilization. Because if they themselves said it predates them, and science also points to ancient times, then the question of who the real builders were becomes even more profound. The story now brings us to today, where the mystery isn't just hidden in old stones, but is slowly being revealed through the eyes of new technology. Things that were once considered mere guesses or imagination are now being scanned, measured, and scientifically understood. And this is where a new awakening begins. A modern awakening. Says a geoscience peer-reviewed study published in 2022 analyzed grooves on some megalithic stones in Peru. The results showed that these marks don't appear to have been made with a traditional chisel. The study clearly stated, unknown methods need more study, meaning the technology used remains unclear. At the same time, a combined scan using satellite and LiDAR technology was conducted in 2022 in Sacred Valley. The results were fascinating. Terraces, walls, and geometric patterns hidden beneath the surface were revealed. Round structures, such as an amphitheater, were previously thought to be part of simple farming. But now, some researchers believe they may be linked to thermal or acoustic experiments. Radar and drone mapping beneath Sacsayhuaman revealed signs of underground passages and voids, as if part of a larger system. Then there are astronomical alignments. Places like Machu Picchu and Coricancha are extremely precisely aligned with the solstice and equinox. Coricancha's June solstice sunrise alignment is considered accurate to the fraction of a degree, a level beyond simple guesswork. In 2024, an interesting roundtable discussion took place at San Marcos University in Lima, where archaeologists, geologists, and engineers sat together and openly discussed these mysterious structures in the Andes. Usually, people at such forums remain within the boundaries of their respective fields, but this time, things were a little different. Here, history, science, and engineering were examined together. And the most surprising thing was that many experts clearly acknowledged that some structures could not be fully explained by existing historical models. This means that the story we've been told so far, that all this was built solely by hard work, ropes, and manpower, doesn't hold true everywhere. This is where the theories begin. Some researchers believe that even before the Inca, in pre-Inca times. The advanced knowledge existed that wasn't limited to construction. They likely understood the behavior of materials, knew the practical application of physics principles, and knew how to harness natural forces, such as sound, heat, or chemical processes. This sounds a bit futuristic, but when you look at the precision of those walls, it's natural to question whether this was simply the result of brute force or intelligence. The concept of stone softening also comes up in this discussion, and some believe that the stones may have been softened in some way before being cut. Several possibilities have been proposed, such as the use of sound frequencies, very high temperatures, or plant-based chemicals. British explorer Percy Fawcett heard a story during his travels that told of a plant in the jungle that could soften stone. Although no scientific evidence has been found to support this claim, the idea is too intriguing to be completely ignored. And there has also been discussion about the acoustic properties of sites like Ollantaytambo and the Temple of the Sun. Some preliminary experiments suggest that sound, under specific conditions, can affect objects. This is still at the experimental stage, but it is clear that the structure and position of these structures have shown a specific relationship with sound. Furthermore, magnetic anomalies have been observed at some sites, that is, areas where magnetic behavior differs from normal. And this has led some to wonder if ancient people possessed some rudimentary understanding of something like magnetic manipulation. If this were limited to the Andes, it might be considered a local mystery. But other ancient sites around the world, such as Baalbek, Göbekli Tepe, and the Great Pyramid, also reveal similar patterns: large stones, precise joints, and engineering that seem far ahead of their time. And these similarities have led many to wonder if there was a shared knowledge that was passed down to different civilizations. Ancient myths also offer glimpses of lost knowledge. Whether it's the story of Viracocha's return after the flood, the legends of Atlantis, or ancient texts like Gilgamesh, many mention a time when a major disaster struck, and a large amount of knowledge was subsequently lost. Scientifically, the Younger Dryas period, which occurred approximately 11,000 to 12,000 years ago, indicates sudden climate change and flooding. Some researchers believe that the events of that time may have affected earlier civilizations. This is followed by another turning point in history, the Spanish conquest. During that period, many local records were destroyed, temples were burned, and in many places, churches were built on top of older structures. For example, the construction of Santo Domingo on Coricancha. And this could also mean that some of the knowledge that already existed was lost over time. In 2023, Oxford research introduced the concept of technological amnesia, that certain technical skills can be lost over time due to disasters or cultural change. Perhaps the real secret lies not in the stones, but in our understanding. And the question is, how many more stories have we missed? If you also think history still holds much more, be sure to leave your opinion in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this.